Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR. I am your host, Terry Ryan Jr. Today, joined by Terry Ryan Sr., fresh off the Chicklets Cup down in Buffalo. Well, that was a few weeks ago, and ready for a beautiful weekend here in St. John's that features, if you're in St. John's or even close, Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is tomorrow night. I'm going to go down. I'm not going to reveal my costume, but I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it. And if you are going down, make sure to, I'll be at Greensleeves tomorrow night. That's where I'll be. Come on down for a conversation. But right now, we've got Terry Ryan Sr. How the hell are you doing, my friend?
I'm feeling great. It's beautiful outside. I'm above ground. Come on, take me to the Mardi Gras. Had to get it in there. Paul Simon, love him.
Ah, yeah. Did you, he was on Howard Stern not long ago.
There goes Ryman Simon.
Oh, Ryman Simon.
Yeah, that's one of his. Well, I like them all, but that's a really good album.
Oh, Ryman Simon.
There goes Ryman Simon. Yeah, Kodachrome.
How do I that's the album Kodachrome's on?
Me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Ryman Simon.
Yeah, there goes Ryman Simon.
God.
I think after the first one was simply entitled Paul Simon, and the next one, I think it's his second solo.
Interesting.
There goes Ryman Simon.
You know, interesting.
It's way back, yeah.
But he's got
a great album.
He's got a new one. I mean, it's slower.
7 Poems.
Yeah,
I'm not into that. It's like,
but it's a really interesting
it's like
interview.
Ecclesiastes or out of the Bible.
Well, he
had a vision or something.
Anymore, so he can't.
I knew that.
Yeah.
I saw the interview, but I'm not into.
No, I know.
I'm just not into it. I respect him for doing it.
Put it this way: it's a good interview. I won't probably listen to the album again. I listened to some tracks.
I'm a big.
It's not horrible.
Now you got one up on me there because you saw him live and in Denver, and I've never had the opportunity to see him, because if I did, I definitely would have paid $500 to see him. But I can honestly say I was never anywhere that I could have seen him.
I'll tell you how I saw him. I got called up. I was in Colorado Springs, holding out of Montreal, waiting to get traded somewhere. And I liked Colorado Springs, as you know. Looking back, still is a great memory.
Beautiful spot.
Remember, I got my arm skated over those?
Yes, I did.
Wherever I went.
Wherever you went, the injury would find you.
Like, people ask me sometimes, and I'm like,
yeah,
because I talk about Michelle Therrien and everything so much.
You were injury prone. I hate to say it, but
like
when I was playing it, it's an athlete's thing. We had a guy that I was playing junior with who was a really good player. Larry Gould was his name. Elliot was his nickname. And Elliot would be playing great, and all of a sudden he'd break a finger, or he would break always something.
But like, the weird thing is,
full year.
But you know what's weird? All those fights, and I never got like my hands.
You didn't. No,
it
was weird.
Like they would get, but I didn't get hurt doing the dangerous things.
No. How many other people do you know had their arms skated over?
Fell down in front of the net, and I was on a tear. I had 40 points in 30 games in like 170 minutes. I was on pace for 300 and 100 points.
But that's the way it goes. But you're lucky. Some people have injuries, they don't come back at all.
Well,
so
yeah,
you get. There's always two sides.
Some people get
hit
by a bus.
Yeah, there's always two sides to it. It was what it was, and you just go on.
But what happened? Yeah, so I was playing there, and I got called up, and I was up in Hershey, and I loved playing in Hershey, but again, it was all guys signed to Colorado, and I'm playing with Brad Larson. I'm like, I played with this guy 2 years ago on Team Pacific, and now he's on the first line, and I'm on the not complaining, saying I'm better than Brad. I'm saying I just knew it, and they knew too.
Yes, like, of course they did.
No matter what I do, Colorado are going to develop their prospects. Now, they were looking at me. They were interested.
Yes.
But until they trade for me,
for sure,
I'm on the fourth line with Parsons.
But makes total sense.
Yeah, totally. So I wasn't upset with them. Mike Foligno
was
a really
developing
nice guy.
Someone else's players.
Yeah. But so that's what but I was, he's like, we could really use you up here, because I was getting in like the peak of it. When the peak of my fighting, like I was, like I went up there knowing that I'm going to throw the mitts, and it's going to be the biggest probably part that they want me to contribute. And senior, I was fighting.
Well, you were. I mean, I remember you were never projected for a first line. I remember sitting down at the draft when it was over, going back to the penthouse in what I forget the name of the hotel, Marriott or whatever. Sitting down with Jacques Demers, who was coaching then. He sat down straight across from me and said, We love your boy. Got to work on his skating. No surprise. And he said, we got him projected as third line. He's going to chip in. He's going to get 15 to 20. But he said, and he meant this, he said, when we go into Philadelphia, we're not going to be pushed around anymore. That's your character, which was the big thing with you. You could score too, but number one thing that Montreal had you slated, third line, he said, if he can become a first or second liner, that's great. But he's got to work on his skating. But right now, we got him at third line. And when I laughed inside internally when he said, but when we go into Philadelphia, we're not going to be pushed around anymore.
It's funny that, and my first game was against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I sat out the first 6 and then they put me in. But it's funny because now, okay, so to extend on that, so the next year, because remember they were going for that for a while. They had Brad Brown, me, Stevenson, Scott Thornton.
Yes.
That's kind of what Tucker.
Yeah.
So when they drafted Asham, that's exactly what they said. They wanted me, Asham, and Tucker to play on a line together. That the third line, Tuck's at center, him on right wing.
And then when all the boys got fired, everything changed.
That's
life. That's simply a bad break.
Yeah.
That's a bad break.
But anyway, so up in Hershey, and the Colorado Springs had no affiliation, but Hershey were affiliated with the Avalanche.
Yes.
And Denver was only 45 minutes, an hour away. Was it about an hour, right? I think.
Well, 45 minutes, I'd say. Yeah.
Like and a nice drive. You don't even know you're driving.
Beautiful drive.
Throw in, it was just long enough, like maybe one album, right?
Yeah.
So, or CD on the thing. So, but anyway, so I see Paul Simons playing, and now and Hershey knew too. I mean, I didn't play much. They understood, but they were real good to me.
But did you see him where the Avalanche play or in a smaller place?
I saw.
I used theater.
I used this for 2 hookups. I went up to. I did go where the Avalanche play to see
Elton John and Billy Joel.
Elton, nice memory, and you too.
Oh, I didn't know.
Through those, and I was sitting with the Avalanche. The only guy I knew was Chris Dingman. Yeah. Like Joe Sakic, I remember being there all because I got on their coach. Whoever didn't go on the team.
Adam Foote was there too.
Adam Foote was there, and then with the Paul Simon, it was only me. But I used they were playing on the road, and I used their in. And Paul Simon, what he did, he went back and played like a bunch of places that he played his first tour, and tour. Like I think, judging by the bar I was in, senior, like before, like I think like struggling artist tour. This was a bar. This was
like a
no
small theater.
No,
2,000-3,000.
no. This was like walking into Club One.
Okay, yeah.
Right. It was like that.
More meaningful.
It wasn't a tiny, but there was no seats or anything. It was walking around.
Yeah.
Right. There was a little stage that he was elevated.
Yeah.
Looking down at us, but
wow. Yeah.
Almost like a school gym, but it was a bar. But it was like that was the setup.
Yeah.
No more than 500 people.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So anyway, and at that time, what was that? 2001.
Yeah.
So he was still bringing it.
Oh, he certainly was. He was only he was about 60 years old and still had it then.
Now, what I wanted to ask you about today. So yesterday, I do Jason Greger's show, as you know.
Yes.
And I was supposed to have Ferguson Jenkins on. Now, we're going to have him on at some point. I was looking forward to talking with him after hearing your story.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, when did you meet? So for those that don't know, Ferguson Jenkins is a Hall of Fame. He's probably the best, not probably. He's the best pitcher ever from Canada.
That's
could be the best baseball player. If you really,
unquestionable.
So like an absolute legend.
Cy Young, 2 or 3 Cy Young Award.
7 20-game seasons, 6 in a row. Yeah. So he played, I guess he retired in 81, 82, around there. Okay. Came in 65, I think. He played a long time. So you met him in the 70s, and I guess he would have still been a peak of his career.
576, something like that.
That's in the juice of his career.
Yeah.
So tell us about meeting him.
Well, I remember at the end of the year here at the Senior Baseball League, I had won a bunch of trophies, and we always had a major leaguer come down, and of course they paid him and put him up, whatever. And the year before, we had Mike Jorgensen from the Expos, and we had a bunch. And this time it was Fergie Jenkins. So we're at the banquet that we're getting presented. And I remember then everyone got the beer and sat down. Then you start bullshitting. And so, the ball players, we went over talking to them. remember saying to him, I said, Fergie, would it be possible? Because uh, never say never. Could you go down to the baseball park tomorrow? I'll get a bunch of the guys because I said and pitch. I said I'd really like to see what a major league fastball's like.
I can't believe it.
And I did. I did. What do you got to lose? And he didn't say it. All he said was, I can't do it, Terry. The reason is, he said, my contract. If something ever happened, he said, I'm not covered. I said, okay, that's good enough. So as it happens, the next day, I'm flying to Kalamazoo, Detroit Red Wings, Kalamazoo training camp in Kalamazoo, Michigan. He's flying out on the same flight. I don't know this.
So wait, that's from here.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you meant it was from Chatham. Okay, keep going.
No,
Okay.
we're flying to Toronto first from here. So he lives in Chatham. I knew that, and which is only an hour from Toronto. So as it happens, he's sitting down. There's no one because it's really early morning flight, as the flights usually are leaving from here. And he's got no one sitting by him. So he turns around, he recognized me and said, come on up. So we were chatting the whole time to Toronto, about 3 hours. So when we landed in Toronto, I had to get another flight to fly to Kalamazoo. And he said, no. He said, come on. He said, when's your flight? I told him it was like 4 or 5 hours. He said, you don't want to wait around here. Come on to my place. I live in Chatham. He said, sit down. He said, we'll have a little chat, have a beer. I said, great. So he rents a car. We get in the car. And all I can remember, I was just,
You get in the car.
I
with
was enamored.
Ferguson,
I was so,
Jenkins.
yeah, I wanted to pump his brains. I love finding out things about whatever.
Well, especially from this guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't believe you
And he's
met him at
such
that
an
time,
easygoing
man.
guy. And he knew once I told him I was a professional hockey player, that he went off the charts because he loves hockey and he wanted to know all about it. So being a Canadian and all. So I remember the two stories that I can remember him telling me. One, because I'm a huge Yankee fan, I mentioned Billy Martin, and he played for Billy Martin because he pitched a number of years in Texas. Martin was coaching in Texas, and he said, all Billy Martin, Terry, wanted you to do, he didn't care what you did at night, but he said, when you show up on the field, you got to play hard. That's all he wanted. And he said, he was great to me. I'll never say a bad thing about him. I said, geez, that's really interesting. And of course, I'm talking to him about Mantle and all this, my favorite player. And he said, well, when I played in Boston, he might have been playing then, I don't know, 70s. He said, I haven't seen anyone hit the ball harder. Straight away, Boston, it's about, I think, 411, that straight away dead center. A lot of balls die out there, I'll tell you. He said, I watched Jim Rice hit at least a dozen over that wall. Now, he said, how far that is? He said, it's at least 450 feet. He said, from what my day, he said, he hit the ball the hardest. I remember that. And then, of course, when I got to Chatham, I'm pretty sure he lived like on a ranch, it seems to me, because I'm going back, 40 years, 50 years. Yeah, 40 something. And it was a ranch style house, and he took me in the house, and in it was an open room. He had his silver sluggers and Cy Youngs, and he was telling me about, this and that, the game and whatever. And I met his wife, and I'm pretty sure it was 2 or 3 little girls, 2 for sure. And finally, I said, Fergie, I got to go because I got to fly back. He drove me back to Toronto, and we were going to be playing at some point in the International League in Port Huron, which is straight across from Canada. I think Port Huron is pretty well. Sarnia is around,
I believe it's close, yeah.
And he said, when you're in Port Huron, he said, I'm coming down to watch you, because it was only like an hour from him, a half hour. And he said, do you have a schedule? I said, no, because season hasn't started. We're going training camp. So anyway, I never heard from him again. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And he was a
Jeez.
great guy.
I mean, and it's funny, unless like with cell phones, you'd probably just get his contact.
Yeah,
But like,
well, now it's so
how
different.
would you ever get a
Yeah.
hold of, if you met somebody that
Yeah.
ship's passing in the night and then all of a sudden
I
it
think
would have been hard to get a hold,
I think he'd remember someone, or if you
well, remember being here.
just say, I think he, and I can't see how he wouldn't remember me. I don't think he'd know my name, but I think he was only in Newfoundland, I'm sure of this, once. So if you knew this guy played hockey, and you sat next to him all the way to Toronto, and then drove to his house, I think he would remember. I remember something like that.
Wow.
So, but I haven't seen him since, and so whatever. But it's a great memory.
I was going to ask him, as a pitcher, what he thought. Did you watch the Jays in the playoffs take out Barrios when he was having his best game as a Blue Jay in 2 years?
Yeah, I still think that coach is dead man walking.
What?
I think it'll be announced. I can't see how he keeps his job.
What are they doing? Like, analytics take you so far, but you can look at and they're paying him $40 million.
Yeah, which is a double whammy. Yeah.
What? But
I can't see how
he finally did what you wanted him to do last year. He sucked.
Yeah. No,
now he had a good year and he's playing. He's got a fucking shutout in the fourth.
I can't.
What are you doing?
I can't possibly see how he keeps his job with a guy like Don Mattingly ready to step in.
How the fuck does he?
Because if he sends out a bad message to the fan base.
I know, but listen, unless he actually didn't make the call, right? That's the only way I
guess
can
it's
see.
possible. I guess, but
there's an analytics department now, and now Ross Atkins came out and said that.
Why didn't they come out and say no? It's not the coach. Why didn't they
Well, I thought they
no
were.
one. I didn't hear anything.
Atkins said it wasn't him.
Wow. He
kind of threw him under the bus, but
yeah,
it's sort what I'm saying is that it is the coach.
Sort of, kinda.
What are you doing? That's a fireable offense, especially when you're supposed to have a great year and you're squeezed into the playoffs. And now Texas is in a great position to win.
Now, having said that, Texas are. I mean, go through that lineup. They had a great year. They ended up. I think they might have won 101 games.
They got the bats.
And you don't know about the pitching because you never heard about them before. It's all talking about the other big league like Houston and Verlander and Scherzer and all whatever.
Scherzer's
now you're going to see
Scherzer's with Texas, isn't he?
He is now, but when he was with the Mets and the Yanks and
I know what you mean.
Jarrett Cole. Now you're going to see guys come out of the blue and you're going to say, "Holy Jesus, that guy can really throw the ball." Someone you never would have heard of. This is how careers are made. People are going to get 5 years tacked on their career if they perform well here.
I totally agree. I'm going to go a little bit off base now. Samantha in Flin Flon, Manitoba. For some reason, that's the third question I've
home of Bobby Clark and Reggie Leach.
Yes. She wants to know if you had any pets growing up.
Pets? Yeah, I did. I grew up, my dad, we didn't have much money in a small town in central Newfoundland, about 300 miles from here. It was a pulp and paper town, about 10,000 people. Beautiful town. I go back every year for a week, stay with my sister. But my dad worked in Maitre D in a hotel, so small town. But great love, all that, and we had enough to get by. Couldn't own a dog because you were part of an apartment complex. But I had a cat. I had a tabby cat, and I loved that cat. And I have a cat now.
What was the tabby cat's name?
I think it was Princess.
Well, my cat now is named Princess.
Yeah, well, I think it was something like that, but it's a long time ago, 60 years ago.
Wow.
But I love animals, so.
So we started our conversation a little bit earlier, a couple of years ago. I don't think you thought Jack Hughes would pan out. What do you think now?
He obviously got the skills.
He's pretty electric.
He is, but because there's something about him, because he's so soft, I think he's going to get hurt every year. Not his fault. I don't think he's got a big frame. 82 games, I just think he's going to miss a bunch because his body's going to let him down. If he doesn't, he could very well win the scoring. That's obvious, but I just see him. I don't think the wear and tear over 80 games and the playoffs and 6'3" guys, 220 pounds, not necessarily running them because the game, you don't see people getting run anymore. But even when you go into corners and a big defenseman, 6'3", 220, just leans on you, takes energy out of you. So if you got to fight it all, and every now and then, it's better than anyone, there is going to be the guy that's going to take that cheap shot. They're around, and all it takes is one. So, he's a lot better than I gave him credit for, and he probably will get better, but I'm not sold on him yet. Like, I don't see Austin Matthews as a different kettle of fish because 6'2", 6'3", 220, he can take that wear and tear. Connor McDavid, though he's not 220, he's about 6'1", 6'2", 190, 195, not necessarily small. Jack Hughes is probably what, 5'11", 180? I don't know, but he's certainly skilled.
So Simon in London, England. Simon the Jinx, he goes by. He's in London, England. Thanks for listening, Simon. He wants to know, why was Larry Bird so good? You must have mentioned Larry Bird on an earlier podcast.
Well, Bird is known, first and foremost,
came out of nowhere.
A shooter. Bird was a shooter, and he's ranked, I just saw, anyway, the experts ranked the top guards, top 5 guards, top 5 power forwards, top 5, and he was number 2 next to Jordan as a shooter. And
there was Steph Curry on that list. Jesus.
Curry was I think he was a shooting guard. Bird wasn't a guard.
I got you. I thought you meant shooters. Okay, yeah.
And his overall brilliance of the game. He was like Magic Johnson. Like, you could say, wow, he got eyes in the back of his head. That's how he played the game. And if you watch any old clips, he's going straight, and all of a sudden, the ball leaves his hand. What? Boom! There's a guy under the basket. No one saw it. He drew everyone to him. He was known his overall brilliance of the game.
So the Lakers,
but first and foremost, he was shooter.
The Lakers Celtics was pretty big, right, back then.
I mean, my God!
I was too young to know what's going on.
Yes,
I remember the.
Oh yeah, like they played one another. I think 3 out of 4 years I'm pretty sure the Celtics won 3 against the Lakers, or maybe 2, because the Celtics beat Detroit, I think, 1 year. But it was key when Magic Johnson came in against Larry Bird and Michael Cooper. And, oh, my God, they had so many. But the Celtics had Kevin. Oh, geez, big.
I know who you're talking about.
GM of he's from Minnesota.
Dark hair, tall, white.
And then they had the tall guy.
What was his name?
The center under the 7'1", 3 7-footers, and Dennis.
Kevin McHale.
Yes, Kevin McHale. Dennis Johnson. They were great. So what a series.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I don't know. That question came out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was great.
Okay, there's a band I don't talk about on here much, but I often, at the end of my podcasts, I often recommend sometimes a song or an album. And one, I was going to talk about the Association, 60s band, for those that don't know.
No one would know them.
I didn't. I know, but that's
they were
arguably,
to me, arguably the greatest harmony rock band ever. 6-part harmony.
So that's saying a lot, because when people hear harmony, they would think Beach Boys, Beatles.
Of course. No, I think Association.
Okay, so and what? Just quickly, like I
Never My Love, Everything That Touches
song?
You.
Okay.
Along Comes Mary. Windy. Oh my God. I mean, 6-part harmony.
One banger. What would you say? Windy first? For people that never heard the Association.
For me, I think most people.
My favorite is Never My Love.
I think most people would say, or that, or Cherish. But mine would have been Windy, and followed by Along Comes Mary, then Never My Love.
Yeah, I mean, I like it, but if it was the first time hearing, if people out there are going to give it one chance because no one has an attention span
No.
to call their own these days.
No.
So if it was one
And that
shot,
style
people
of
listening,
music you don't hear
I'd say
anymore.
Windy. I'd say
Yeah.
Windy if it
Oh,
was one shot because it's
well,
faster.
and it went to number one, and it
Yeah,
catches
there's a
you right
reason.
off the bat.
What's so good about the album Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys? Carl wants to know, and Carl is in Connecticut.
Well, you know, and we saw the Beach Boys even in Grand Falls, where I'm from. They came in. Remember,
We
Terry?
saw him in '88. Yeah, I remember that.
They ripped us off though. Remember, they played for half an hour.
I do, but I remember
and they
seeing,
left. But they were great.
But I was 10, so I
You're
just
right.
remember seeing them.
But Brian Wilson was there in his
yeah,
prime then.
Yeah, I remember. Like I didn't even.
It was a ripoff, but their most of their songs were like 2 minutes anyway. So I think they played like 10 or 15 straight. Bing Bing, Gander, Newfoundland, which is a international airport, is only an hour away from where I grew up, where the concerts were, and they got it set up. We've had the Eagles, Kiss, Arrows, all of them, and anyway, there was over, I'd say 30,000 there for them. But I remember they just went boom, 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 boom. No talking to the audience, straight to the airport, gone to Boston, I would think. But Pet Sounds itself, I know Rolling Stone magazine, you know, there was an argument whether it's number one, that or Sgt. Pepper, and I'm thinking, what? I don't understand it. Now, okay, Sloop John B, I like that. I like now I gotta think. It's more of a concept album. Good Vibrations.
That's pretty definitive for the Beach Boys.
But it's more of a concept album. It's not like
yeah, it is.
They don't jump out. The songs don't jump out at you. Like, no, the big one is that McCartney considers his favorite song.
Oh, yeah,
God Only Knows. Yeah, that's on it, and that's pretty nice. But I wouldn't have it like in my top 10, but poll after poll after poll, it's considered one of the greatest ever. So, you know, a lot of people know a lot more about it than I do, but it's not mine.
Yeah.
Though it's a good album. I like it. I do.
Like, so, Wouldn't It Be Nice?
Wouldn't It Be Nice is really good too. Yeah.
It is. And Good Vibrations isn't on it.
No, okay.
I forgot that.
But just name it out. There's two or three
that
there's
are really songs, good. Though, like Caroline No. Like,
yeah.
You know, it's songs that weren't like hits.
No, they weren't.
Here Today.
No.
That's Not Me.
No.
I Just Wasn't Made for These
times.
Okay,
that's sort of a nice song.
It's a beautiful song, but you'd never lean
no.
You'd never play it in front of
like number you know the album as well as I do. Would you put it number 2?
No, but you lived that time though. It's often the time that it came.
Wouldn't be. No, definitely not.
But I do really like it.
And I like the Beach Boys. Don't get me wrong, but it's not.
Here's the thing about the Beach Boys. I like Pet Sounds and I'll listen to it.
Yeah, I do too.
Beach Boys is one band that I can cover it with the greatest hits. I don't need to hear like the deep cuts.
Exactly.
Like the Beatles, you might miss a lot if you hear.
No question.
But for me, the Beach Boys 25 greatest hits, I'm like, okay, you're pretty much going to cover the gamut there.
Yes.
Right? Like and
but I'm telling you more and more. A little side here now, and sort of, you know, how I'm boomerang and bing, bing, bing.
Yeah.
But more and more, I see people interviewed on TV, musicians, artists, and whatever. But they've always got the Beatles number one. That's forever. Like that's like I don't know, but by Beethoven, I don't know. But they're number one. But slowly but surely, and I hear it repeatedly, the number 2 group that are next to the Beatles.
Okay, wait.
And I'm hearing it from like great artists that are saying, man,
and it's okay.
If people were invited to go on this, everyone wanted to play with this group. And if you were, can you come in as a session guy and play on it? The biggest stars, the biggest session guys, it was like a feather in their cap, like you can't believe. And they said all kinds of people.
You're not talking about the Eagles?
No.
Don't tell me Steely Dan.
Yeah, Steely Dan. Steely Dan.
Well, I know that
they gave Mark Knopfler was called. They asked Mark Knopfler to play on a song. Mark Knopfler to this day says, "No more Steely Dan." Mark Knopfler, who at the time just came in with Sultans of Swing, a unique picking style for.
He's
like
one
you
of the
know
best
a Mark
ever.
Knopfler song.
Dire Straits, for those that don't know.
And they wanted him to sing on, what was the one? Oh, God. They wanted him to play on it 15 times in a row. And it's Mark Knopfler. He said, they made me play it 15 times in a row. Finally, I got what they wanted. No more. He was pissed off. Having said that, they were playing Asia. And there's Asia. There's a part of Asia that they've reinvented drumming.
Wait. When you say Asia, people are thinking the continent.
No.
It's an album
by Steely Dan, considered their greatest ever. And of course, Steely Dan, to the uninitiated, were early. Ricky, Don't Lose That Number and Do It Again, but they had very heavily influenced by jazz rock. They came in with the jazz rock genre, like Becker and Fagan. Their favorite music was John Coltrane and Gil Evans, was jazz. So they incorporated it. So on Asia, you think the song is over, and they brought in the best drummers around. I saw this guy interviewed. His name was Steve Gadd. Now, he was one of the very best anyway. So he said, I went in. He said, I saw 5 guys leave that were the best in our field. How you doing? No one knew if they got the job. So he came in, but right at the end, there's a drum break. You think it's over, and it goes down, down, and he goes into the drums for about a minute and a half. He just drums back, and then it goes right back into the song again. And here you are into the song Asia.
I know what you're talking about.
And when the song came out, he said, no one knew. He said, I was driving down the road, and he said, when the drum break came, I said, that's me. That's how I found out I got it. They used my song, my drum break. That's how they were. And people would trip for themselves to try. Rick Derringer was doing a part. It was rock and roll hoochie coo at the time. Hot stuff. Never got it. A lot of them. But if you look at after the third album, they became Becker and Fagan, plus the group disbanded more or less. They were getting the best hired session musicians and artists around who wanted to play with them. So Denny Diaz and them and Jim Hodder, they sort of weren't in the band anymore because it was Becker and Fagan plus the best around.
Well, you can hear when you hear a Steely Dan album, though, the first thing that jumps out at me is the production.
Gary Katz produced every one for them.
Yes. But it's some production like improvements, like the doors must have flew open in the 70s, but it's not every band, but I can hear it. Who did Michael Jackson? Is that Quincy Jones?
Yeah.
Like,
Quincy
did you
Jones.
notice on that too? Like if you hear Billie Jean, or that's just one example.
Yeah.
It's clean.
Yeah, I did. No question.
And when I hear the Steely Dan, it's like there's a few bands like that's really clean.
No question.
You can hear that they're really, really, really trying to almost.
They were total perfectionists, and they would play, and a lot of the artists would but they do it because they were so proud that, wow, I'm going to be on a Steely Dan. And now, of course, they're considered geniuses, and
they certainly are.
And even the best around are saying, man, like Steely Dan their compositions are so complex. Like one guy who was a really good bassist, one of the best around, Chuck Rainey, he said they had a chord. He said, my fingers couldn't reach the chord. He was considered the best session bass player in the business. He said, I couldn't get the chord. So he said, I had to try it, practice it until finally I pulled it off. But that's the kind of things. It wasn't A, B, G, E minor. It was complex jazz chords that they would incorporate. Now, it's not for everyone. I loved it.
That's a good point. Yeah, but it's the more I learned about Steely Dan, that's when I got their band like that. It sounds, the production is great, but for me, like a few songs stand out. But once I got to, and I don't like them as much as you do.
No,
but I do.
But you love certain songs. You do love.
Yeah. What's the album? Cousin Dupree. Jesus.
Well, Cousin Dupree would be.
What was the album that was on though?
I'm pretty sure it's on
something and
Two Against Nature.
Two Against Nature. Yeah. Album of the year in like 2000.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't know. often talk about you growing up in the
And I
five-year
love
mid
the
pro.
Eagles too, by the way. I hate to interject, but the Eagles were always my number 2. Now they're number 3, and in danger as I get older and whatever of falling to number 4. Slowly but surely, the more I hear them, and I always love them, the band is becoming number 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're slotting in the band.
But everyone is recognizing the band now. Like,
Well,
is it any fluke? Eric Clapton and George Harrison's favorite group, the band.
yeah.
Eric Clapton asked him, "Can I join the band?" And he tells a story. Saw him once again interviewed. He said, "I just left Cream." He said, "Here we are." He said, "I'm dressed. My hair is all permed. I got pink, yellow, black slacks on, an orange shirt." And he said, "I showed up in Woodstock, New York. That's where music from Big Pink, where they went with Dylan, right? So that's their first big one that made them." And he said, "I showed up at the door." And he said, Levon Helm answered the door. And Levon Helm was good old boy from Arkansas. And he said, "Levon, yeah." And he sort of knew me. And he said, "I'd really, really like your music. I'd love to join your band." And he said, Levon Helm looked at me, and he said, looked at what I was wearing, said, "I don't think so, son." He did. And he said, "I knew, of course, but I loved their music." And George Harrison, they were his favorite band of all time. But if you listen to their music too, they're like the Beatles in the sense that no one song is alike.
They're real different. Yeah.
Yeah. And no one song is alike.
I shouldn't say real different. They're unique. Different is not really different, but they're unique in that way. Every song, and it's like, I don't know. It's
And they're
almost
from
country rock.
and
but
they're
it's not.
from Canada.
Star.
And they're
Levon's
from
where?
Canada.
Outside of Levon, where's he from?
Outside Levi's from Arkansas, but every other one they were playing the honky tonks behind Rompin' Ronnie
Isn't Robbie
Hawkins
Robertson
in Toronto.
From Winnipeg?
No, Robertson's from Toronto.
Toronto? What, is that
His
I just saw a thing with Randy Bachman. I'm getting mixed
they're
up at the
all
same
Rick
time.
Danko's from a little farm outside Welland or Thorold.
Okay.
They're all from Ontario.
And so I mixed it up, but I was just reading Jesus Senior, I get mixed up. It was one of those, but it was either like Jaggers, Keith Richards, or Eric Clapton's or David Bowie's. I read the books, and a lot of them are on like the same scene at different times.
Yeah.
Anyway, at some point, the Guess Who comes up, and Randy Bachman's talking about Robbie Robertson and touring with them. That would make sense because it was the same time they were
Absolutely.
Canadian. But the boys are from
you
Winnipeg.
you hear a lot, and I have heard it. A number of artists, they talk about the Hall of Fame, and they can't believe the Guess Who are not in the Hall of Fame. Apparently, Jan Wenner had something happen against the Guess Who, and he told him, "You'll never get in the Hall of Fame." Now he's been deposed, so they may get in, but a lot of the big names are saying if ever a group deserved to be in, it's
My
Guess Who.
God, I would think they would be like in the first 20.
Well, two number one hits, about 15 top 40, and innovative. Like Randy Bachman, and looking out for number one, blue collar jazz.
And members that went on to do other things that were.
Here's one for you. Two artists had a number one hit with two different groups. Two only in the history of rock and roll. Who were they?
Well, obviously, having that we're on the topic, I'll say Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings.
No, Randy Bachman and Paul McCartney. Beatles and Wings. But Randy Bachman, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, and American Woman with the Guess Who. Not many people would get that, man. That's a good trivia one right there of all time. And he's Canadian.
I was just going to say the Traveling Wilburys, but none of them went to number one. That would give five of them.
No, I don't think they had number one hit either. No, Handle with Care might have been top five, but no, this is I've heard this recently in an interview. We're being interviewed.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
So I'm very proud of the fact that there's only two people, Paul McCartney and me, he said, and he named it. I'm 99.9% of people wouldn't get that question. Now I'm telling you right now. It's a trick question. Then you look back at it and you say, the BTO were pretty good. And Guess Who? Come and think of it, but they don't jump out.
Okay, senior, we've been on the go 45 minutes now, and I'm going to take Penny Lane to Saw X. We're going to get
Oh,
gory.
not Saw.
Oh, that's
the ones. Oh my
what I'm
God.
taking her to.
I can't watch that.
She loves them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I can't watch. Is that number 10 now?
Yeah, I
Is that
guess.
what it means?
Must be.
Saw X.
We've seen a lot. First
Oh my
one
God.
was brilliant, but now this one got rated in the 80s. And
The first one that came out was unique.
first
It was
one I thought was great.
but
After
you
that, it got
cringe.
gory.
I'm sitting down. I'm cringing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Do you want to play a game?
Yeah, it's great.
Not really. Guy wakes up with his arm
He
chained
manacled to
Yeah.
the bed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I didn't know you saw the first one.
I saw 2 or 3.
Mm.
But after that, I sort of
It
lost.
did get repetitive. Now this one is now the last one was all right. Chris Rock was in it. Spiral.
No,
Well,
it's
she loves them.
it's a genre now. People, it's like Fast and Furious. Jump over a canyon.
Yeah.
285 million. No, more than that.
Yeah.
$600 million later. And Van Diesel.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, it's just anything goes.
Yeah, anything goes. It's a blockbuster. What do you call a franchise?
Yeah.
So that's what they do.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, she loves them. We'll have
Of
fun.
course, and good for her.
Um,
I'm going next week. I can't wait to go. I don't know why I haven't, but I gave it a bit of time because I figured it was going to be blocked. The Flower Moon, Killers of the Flower Moon. Supposed to be great.
And Oppenheimer.
Oscar written all over it.
It's the only thing, man. It's 3 hours and 30 something.
But
minutes.
I'm willing to do it.
We're
DiCaprio,
talking Gone with the Wind
DiCaprio,
territory.
Scorsese, and De Niro. Any day of the week, I'll do it all day long.
Wow. Take a couple of weeks.
Oscar written all over it. They said.
Yeah. I'll have to. Yeah. I'll definitely go.
As long as it's not Miramax, I'll go.
Got to pack a lunch. Yeah.
You get that?
What?
You get the joke behind that?
No.
As long as it's not Miramax, it's Harvey Weinstein.
Mm.
Weinstein. I don't think it's on the go anymore. I think it's bankrupt
Must
now. But
be. Jesus.
as long as it's not
Fuck.
Miramax.
Yeah. How do you hear some of these people and like it's
And they sang his praises. Yeah, up at the mic. I'd like to thank Harvey Weinstein, who saw, and these are big actresses that won the Oscar, whatever. And of course, when all this came down, denied everything. Well, I don't know. We've got you right on video here, Meryl. Meryl Streep right on video, praising them to the hilt. They can't get far enough away now. The hypocrisy of it all.
It's just all. Yeah, you're right.
The hypocrisy.
Without trying to unpack all those layers.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay. I got to ask you this last question, though, because I did not know the answers. And I forget who I did. People, I get so many messages.
Yeah.
Some people, a lot of, and I don't really have, like, Granelli produces for the boys, right? Like, so I don't have anybody. So, like, it takes me a while to even answer messages each day. So a lot of these I just got written down.
That's fair enough. People know that.
And I hate using my.
I know.
I hate using my.
Well,
phone
because you
for
want to
everything.
be, you want to be legitimate. Yeah.
And I like. Well, I just like. Look at how many of these notebooks.
I agree.
I write if I have an idea, if I have a show, if I have research, I write it rather.
And that's good.
So I forget. I apologize. I couldn't read the name.
God
of
love
this
Granelli.
person.
Granelli, if you're listening, God love you.
Well, I mean, you can appreciate what he does when we get.
Of course. De rigueur.
I appreciate I don't need to expand. I appreciate the listeners I have. I have a nice little sponsorship. Make a decent dollar at this.
Yes.
I don't have the aspirations to go that big.
No, you're good at it too.
It does get bigger to the point that it's hard to manage sometimes. That's why I only do 2 a week. But I enjoy it, and I'm never going to complain because the other 2 days a week, Gregor's I got to research. Like Gregor in the morning, like on Thursday morning, like yesterday. They'll text me like, this is on the show today. And I'm like, Jesus, Ferguson, Jenkins, this is going to take a couple of hours.
But his is like more contemporary though. His is like what's going on now.
Let's analyze the game.
So you better analyze. You should know the stats and what's going on.
Well, yeah, right. So I got to pay attention. I got to watch all the Oilers games.
Yes.
And like Dave Maloney, even he's from the Rangers, but like he's got a career. So I like to go in and so it takes me 4 or 5 hours that day. And then, I got to see what I'm going to talk about. The Ryan's rant. I'm not complaining. I enjoy doing it. I'm just saying. Sometimes it gets. So
what's the question?
The question that somebody had.
Yeah.
That's really, really a big time.
Is this directed to me?
It is.
Okay.
Says you talk about your dad and growing up, and like I said, your 5 pros that came from your team all the time.
Yeah.
Grand Falls to Hamilton,
for sure.
Minnesota to Kalamazoo and Harry Neal and everything else.
For sure.
But
interesting life. I got to say that.
Very
I've had an
interesting.
interesting life.
Yeah, real interesting.
and very appreciative of it.
And that's why a lot of people. That's why you're on this pod right now, and a lot of
Well,
people take
and but it's sincere. I don't bullshit either. It's just sincere.
I pick up what
So
you're laying
you
down.
know, good and the bad. Wasn't always good, but take the good with the bad is life.
You are right, and sometimes ugly. There you go, Sergio Leone. Did your mom come to any games?
No,
Did your no.
mom.
So your mom doesn't
It's
realize how good of
really
a hockey player you
strange.
were?
Really strange. I think she might have come up like a couple times. Dad, of course, never left the rink. Dad was like so many other fathers with a good young hockey player. Dad never missed unless he was working. Never missed a practice. Never missed a game. But mom never wasn't into sports at all. I don't even think she came to a baseball game. But she would just stay at home, have a cigarette, never drank, watch TV and chat, whatever, the latest gossip going on in town, and was a good mother and a loving mother and good, cooked meals and that. But no, I can't remember mom being at stadium.
It is wild. Because
Dad made up for it.
Because if I said that,
over.
yeah, well, she was great. And we would go in.
Yeah.
When did she pass anyway? What?
Mom was, I think, 80. I think 81.
What?
No. Pardon me. I know. I'll tell you.
What?
I'll tell you. 2009.
9.
Yeah, she was 78.
So we would go in. So Salmon Fest in Grand Falls, when we just talked about like Aerosmith and Kiss and the Beach Boys and all that would happen every summer at Salmon Fest. And that's in Grand Falls, about a 3-4 hour drive from St. John's. So that seniors from there. So we would always go in, myself, Jeremy Charles, Brian
Beautiful
Barry, Sean Gibbons, whoever, like my buddies, Blair Connolly. We would go in and stay
and hang out on the lawn getting loaded.
Yes.
with the music blasting.
Yeah.
Before we walked up to the concert.
And she was always great. She was around.
Yeah.
And I remember her saying that.
And she was so proud that you'd be in there and the boys were there. She'd never say it. Yeah. She'd never say, wow, Terry.
She would never say it.
But inside you could see that do you want anything, boys? She was always there catering, but she'd never say, boy, they're nice. That's just the way she was.
I remember. Yeah. And she would make that, she called it chop suey, but it was goulash.
It was goulash, yeah.
And she would
delicious too. Wow.
She would take pride in everything. And I remember going in and I remember even being full and looking over and Jeremy was like, we should probably eat it. Like she made this for us.
Oh,
and
yeah, Jeremy.
This is the best.
Jeremy was a gull. Yeah.
Oh yeah. God. Yeah. He was putting it in Tupperware and taking it to the concert.
I know. And here he is. Here he is now, one of the very best in Canada.
Yeah. Yes. And world renowned.
How food comes round. Food even meant a lot to him then.
We were taking, Jeremy would go salmon fishing behind the mill and then come to the concert and take a little
salmon fisherman too.
Yeah.
Always got his salmon.
Always did. And he would
always
a little thing of Tupperware that she made.
He walked back to the house. Wasn't only about, I guess, where the river, the river, the bridge from the house might be 10 minutes.
15 minutes.
And he'd always come back, fingers through, left, right hand through the gill. Ms. Ryan, and Mom would freeze him, and he'd wrap him in something to bring back to St. John's. You can, whatever.
So it's funny, because she was always around.
Yes.
When we were at her house, she was omnipresent. But I just, when this person asked, I said, you know what? I don't think so. I don't think she did. I never heard her mention hockey once.
No.
Not once.
No.
Right? Just wasn't into sports.
Never. Even when I went away.
Did she know
I left
when you were going away?
She must have 16. Said, what the fuck? Well, when I went to Hamilton, she would never wouldn't be, Terry, did you get any goals? Or nothing like that ever. When you halfway through the year, I remember we only got, I don't know what it was like a West. Oh, I should, because I think you had a week off once you flew home and your mother and I went down to Vancouver. The most I can remember getting off at Christmas, because we always played Boxing Day, was maybe 2 days max. And it took me half a day to get home. It took me, by the time I left Hamilton, got to Toronto, got home, and then I had to go to Gander and fly back, So that's the most I could ever. But even when I go home, nothing about house a year, going, Terry, whatever, have your Christmas meal. Okay, Mom, got to go. Okay, Dad. Of course, Dad was different. But no. No, she was never into sports per se.
Well,
and not so much me, even other events, even the Cataracts are playing a senior team or whatever, Mom just stayed at home and
And you know what
went
else
for a
is
walk
nuts?
every
You know
now
what
and
else
then.
is
But
nuts? Like, and I mean it. I would go in there like I was in there all the time. Like I would. Like, I spent a lot of time with her, and someone asked me. Her name was Marie, right?
yeah, Marie, yeah.
But I didn't even realize. It took me a while to come because it was always Nan, 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 and you would go Mom, and we'd be in there the whole time, and nobody ever said Marie. Not one.
Well,
person.
Elvis sodden up to say, Anne Marie's the name of a latest
flame.
flame. I had to get that in. You teed it up for me.
See, there's a new Elvis album coming.
No, I don't. There's not.
There is.
No. Oh,
Well, they're going to
where
remix
did they unearthed a manuscript with the Dead Sea Scrolls that they some Arab invented.
There's Danielle. Look, grab that. This is my pod. We can. When I'm on Gregor's show, it needs to be more professional. You can grab that. Oh, look, and Danielle, look, grab that. Look, see, but she had it. Do you see
That's
that?
beautiful.
She see that up there? She hung it by that. She had it hung up on the hook there. And I was like,
oh no, so it's
we got that
Yeah,
at
that
the game.
happens,
Reggie
yeah.
Houle gave that to us.
You got to be
Well,
very careful, when you hang things up.
It's
like
expensive.
that. But you can
You
press
know,
that out. I'm pretty sure.
Show the people
Or
on
stretch
YouTube.
it out, Danielle. I
Show the
think you can
people on
stretch it
YouTube what
out.
it is. Well, yeah. She just hung it. This was wet.
But you know
Yeah,
what?
yeah,
You
yeah.
might be able to,
Isn't that beauty?
It is a beauty.
Hey,
Hi, Senior.
Reggie Houle, so go on in, pick up whatever you want.
There you go.
Great. Okay. Yeah, you know what? If you wash it and steam it, you might be able to
Well,
get that out.
Just put it in your car and you wash it and steam it because I'm going to be gone.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I mean,
I don't even know when you
De
say
rigueur.
steam. When you say
De
steam
rigueur.
it, I don't even know what you're talking
I'm
about.
responsible for
How the
the
fuck do I
church.
steam it?
That's the way it works.
Well,
If you said steam it, you know how I would steam it? I'd get a hanger and put it in the steamer at Good Life.
Yeah, you got it when you put it on hooks.
actually,
Yes.
you know what? That's not a bad thing. You can hang up your garments when you're in the shower
Yeah.
and the steam in the shower.
Well, there you go. That would be the
Okay.
way to
Yeah,
steam it.
that works
You know
too.
what I mean?
That works.
But
Yeah.
I don't think it would work.
Danielle's seen. You know what? We're going to wrap up. I guess Danielle's on her way. Where are you on your way to?
I'm on my way to
Speak into the microphone.
green sleeves and loose tie.
Danielle's back from Alberta now, lives here, and she's running green sleeves and loose tie, which
Wow.
hey, what better a time?
Chris Ryan did the screech in,
Nuts.
and he did a great job. But we had, we had 3 teams in, and
Wow.
when the guys come, the girls follow. So it
Of
was jammed.
course.
And this weekend it is Mardi Gras. Folks, if you're downtown St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador this weekend, why not drop into Green Sleeves Pub for a beer? Why not go to Loose Tie for a meal? Start there. If you're going to go anywhere else on the street for a beer, why not check out Trinity Pub, TJ's Pub, Rob Roy Confusion, Martini Bar, and the Bull and Barrel. If you're going to go anywhere else for a bite to eat, why not try Merchant Tavern, Blue on Water, and Wedgwood Cafe. Wedgwood Cafe. Peter Wedgwood also does catering. If you want to change your life, strength and balance for the body and mind, check out Ryan Power at Power Conditioning on Rope Walk Lane. Strength, balance, body, and mind. If you want to go to Mr. Lube, there's 2 locations here in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Torbay Road and Kenmount Road. Live, laugh, lube. Pitbull Pain Relief, the pain sticks that just don't quit. PitbullPainRelief.com. Check it out. See what all the fuss is about. And, of course, True Hockey. Take what's yours. Thank you, Corey Gregory. And, of course, Season 3 of Shoresy coming real soon. Production will be in November and December, and I'm looking forward to that. If you're in the United States, this is the day. Hulu. It just was released. Now,
I saw
Canada.
that.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
Canada and the U.S. now have all
being
6
advertised,
episodes.
through Crave and all that. Yeah.
Senior, you got anything else to say?
I'd just like to say to all our listeners and fans, I guess, in Australia and the United States and Great Britain, that I've been all over the United States where I played hockey, but I'd love to get it to Australia at some point, and certainly to England. And my wife and I, our favorite team got sent down, so we're rooting. They're going to get back up. Leicester. Go Foxes, go.
He says that because he watches the podcast, and we have quite a or the numbers, and we have quite a following in Australia and Great Britain.
But sincere too.
Yeah, and I look, people are listening in Australia, and I want to get over there, and so does he. So make it
Yes.
happen. We want to do.
That's it.
All we want is the trip paid for, and
That's
I'm
it.
willing to do public speech.
That's
or
it.
local live podcast.
The whole
that goes
shot.
for fucking anywhere. By
The
the
whole
way,
shot.
If you're out there, why not? Me and Senior, we want to travel. We're going to get it in while
We're
we
a
can.
pair. We're a pair.
Yeah, we're willing to come to your town. We're an American band. Okay.
Good. Yeah.
On that note, I'll catch you on the rebound. More Tales with TR in just a few days. Thanks for listening, and see you guys soon.